Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. And if you're new here, welcome to our channel where we bring you stories about people of African descent from the diaspora and beyond. Tonight, we are bringing you a sleep story for deep sleep. So if you need some help getting to rest, then this is the perfect episode for you. So let me tell you tonight's story. This is the Great Migration. Welcome to the Great Migration, a time when many African Americans moved from the southern states to places like the Midwest, the Northeast, and West Coast. This was a long journey, one that took place over several decades. But why did so many people decide to leave their homes? What made them pack up and go? Well, there were two main reasons. First off, life in the South had been really tough for African Americans after slavery ended. Even though slavery was outlawed, they still faced a lot of problems, like not having enough money, not being able to vote, and most importantly, feeling very unsafe. In some parts of the South, there were groups of white people who didn't want African Americans to be free. They thought that black people should still work for them and be treated like they were less than human. This made it hard for African Americans to have a decent life in the South. So many of them started dreaming of a better life somewhere else. The second reason was because the northern states were changing. There were lots of jobs for African Americans in factories and farms, and they could earn good money. Places like Chicago and New York needed workers to help them grow and become bigger and stronger. At the same time, the northern states had laws that protected the rights of African Americans. They were allowed to vote, own property, and get educated just like anyone else. This made the northern states seem like a safe haven compared to the dangerous conditions in the South. Now, keep in mind, this wasn't a sudden thing that happened overnight. It was a gradual process that took a long time. Many African American families talked about this dream of moving north for years. Before they finally decided to take the big step, when they did make the decision to move, they usually planned for it carefully. They would save money for a long time to be able to pay for things like transportation and housing. Some families even sold their houses and businesses in the South to raise money for the trip. When the Great Migration began, it was very slow at first. Most of the people who moved during the early 1900s went to cities like Chicago, Detroit, and Cleveland. They were looking for factory jobs and a better life for their families. But why exactly were they going to these cities? Well, it's simple. These cities needed workers. Back in those days, factories were like the superheroes of the economy. They helped cities become bigger and stronger, but they needed people to work in them. That's where African Americans came in. They had skills and talents that were perfect for factory jobs. Plus, the factories offered decent wages, which meant they could earn enough money to take care of themselves and their families. As time went on, more and more people heard about how great these cities were, and they wanted to move there too. This kept the migration going. It became like a chain reaction. By the 1920s, about 500,000 African Americans had moved north. Cities like New York, Philadelphia, and Washington also started getting busy. People were moving there for the same reasons. They wanted better jobs and a safer place to live. It was around this time that Harlem in New York really started taking off. It became like a magnet for African Americans all over the South. Why? Because Harlem was their own little piece of home in the North. They found comfort in seeing familiar faces and hearing the sounds they missed from the South. Let's take a break right here. Do you know why it's important to understand where people come from? It's because it helps us see how they grew and changed over time. Let me give you an example. Think back to the early 1900s when people were moving north from the South. These folks weren't just running away from bad things. They were also chasing better opportunities. They wanted to show the world what they could do, but they faced a lot of challenges along the way. People didn't always treat them fairly because of the color of their skin. Despite this, they kept going. They dreamed of a day when everyone would see how talented and smart they were. This dream pushed them forward. They built schools, churches, and businesses. They wanted to create a community where everyone felt proud to be part of. They faced so much unfairness and pain, but they never gave up. Their strength and courage help us understand who they were and what they believed in. But the Great Migration wasn't just about leaving the South. It was also about embracing the North. African Americans brought their culture with them. They shared their food, music, and stories, making the northern cities more vibrant and colorful. It's like adding spices to a dish. You take something ordinary and make it extraordinary. This blending of cultures led to amazing things like jazz music, soul food, and fantastic art. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Sometimes people from the North didn't accept African Americans as outsiders. They struggled to find places to live and work. Still, they held on to their traditions and values. They helped each other and formed strong communities. They created a network of support that helped them overcome tough times. This spirit of unity and perseverance makes their story even more inspiring. They showed incredible strength and resilience. Over time, they broke down barriers and made the cities more inclusive. They fought for equal rights and opportunities. They didn't let anyone stand in their way. As the years passed, more and more African Americans headed west. Places like Los Angeles and San Francisco were calling their names. The promise of sunshine, adventure, and new beginnings lured them in. But why did they decide to move out west? Well, it's because they heard that there were tons of job openings, especially in places like Los Angeles. The city was booming and growing fast. They needed people to work in industries like entertainment, manufacturing, and agriculture. So African Americans grabbed onto this opportunity with both hands. They packed their bags and headed to the West Coast in search of better jobs and a higher quality of life. And guess what? It worked out pretty well for them. The West Coast welcomed them, and they contributed their skills and talents to help the region thrive. It was a win-win situation. The cities benefited from their hard work and dedication, and African Americans gained access to new opportunities and a fresh start. It's amazing to see how people's lives can change when they take a chance on a new place, isn't it? In the end, more than 6 million African Americans decided to join the migration. They packed their belongings and traveled to different parts of the country. Their journey wasn't always easy, but they were driven by the hope of a better future. Now, let's think about why the Great Migration was such a significant event. First, it marked a major shift in American history. For the first time, millions of African Americans were moving away from the South in search of better lives. It was a bold step towards freedom and equality. Second, it changed the social and cultural landscape of the United States. As African Americans settled in new places, they brought their traditions, customs, and values with them. This created a beautiful blend of cultures, making cities more diverse and vibrant. Third, it had a big impact on the economy. African Americans were a hard-working bunch. They filled essential jobs and contributed their skills to help industries grow and thrive. Their presence boosted the economy and helped shape the economic landscape of the nation. So remember, the Great Migration wasn't just about moving from one place to another. It was a movement towards freedom, equality, and opportunity. It's a story worth celebrating and passing down to future generations. I hope you enjoyed this gentle sleep story. If you'd like to support our channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for joining me tonight. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.